So this is part 2 of Mini 14 suck. And if you watch part 1, I don't believe they suck. I believe they do a great job. I believe that they tend to be as good, if not better, than ARs and AKs. A couple things that I like about, let's compare them to AKs real quick. One, I can't stand that AKs do not have a bolt lock back. Meaning that when I'm shooting the last round, that the bolt actually locks in the rear position to tell me the gun is empty. I don't know about you, but I cannot count 30 rounds in the middle of a match. This is a 3-gun gun we set up for a customer, and it is a gun we set up for them to shoot 3-gun in California. California do have detachable magazines. You cannot have stocks that look like this guy here, with foldable, collapsible, forearm grip, pistol grips, things like that. They're black and scary, so we can't have those here in California. So for this particular customer, we set him up with a stainless steel Mini 14. We put the primary arms 1 to 6 power scope, which I really like. I have one of these also. And then we put a few extra pieces on there, like Picatinny rail for a light, Picatinny rail for a 45 forearm grip. And then we added a sling mount, like we were just talking about. So, compared to an AK, what do they have? The mounting of scopes, fairly similar. You can buy stocks that have the ability to do a scout type mount. You can bolt them directly to the receiver, which I think is better than the bolt-on system that the AK has. You can add a Picatinny rail to put a small sight on there just above the range. All those are reasonable, and I think they're fairly similar in mounting optics and other items as an AK. And then people will say, well, I can mount all kinds of stuff. If you buy the ATA stock, it comes with mounting ability to mount all kinds of Picatinny rail wherever you want on the gun. Great. Okay, you can get the quad rails for the Mini 14. They don't come that way, so that's why I'm not saying that I don't think they're any different in the ability. You're going to have to buy something fancy for the AK. You're going to buy something fancy for the Mini 14. Are they both reliable? Yes, extremely reliable. And in the fact of that I've never had a malfunction with any of the Mini 14s I've ever shot. In the last 20 years, I probably had 3 or 4 malfunctions, and they were all from mags. Bad mags when they were coming out. In California, we have to run pinned mags, and I've had a lot of problems finding pinned mags that actually work in California. So, saying that, have I seen AKs malfunction? Yes, I have. And if anybody says their guns do not malfunction, they're lying to you. You still have to practice malfunctions and drills like that, and if you watch anybody that really shoots, they have malfunctions. Am I saying that Mini 14s never malfunction? No, they do. Every gun malfunctions. I've had Glocks malfunction, I've had Mini 14s, I've had lots of ARs that have malfunctioned around me and while I'm using them. I've had AKs malfunction while I've been shooting them. So, does it mean that that gun is not reliable? No, it's incredibly reliable. One part that the AK is much more reliable and the AR is much more reliable is in mud. If I dropped the guns in the mud, I would feel that pulling them out of the mud, the AK would be a more reliable gun. Are they heavier? Do they kick more? Do they tend to be less accurate than the Mini 14? Yes. It's my personal opinion. So anybody out there that disagrees with me, put a comment in the bottom, try to be reasonable about it, and say that your gun just shoots just fine. And that's fine. Now, comparing them to, now they do not, AKs don't have bolt releases because they don't have bolt catches. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave it. They tend to be very nice shooting guns, and they shoot in the 7.62x39 range. You can buy the Mini 30 that shoots the 7.62x39 if you like that. They tend to have more problems shooting steel ammo until you replace the firing pin. If you replace the firing pin, they tend to strike those Russian rounds a little better, and the guns tend to shoot just fine. But they don't have jams. Now, getting into the AR range, I found that most of my minis shoot very accurately with just about every round that I put in them. They also tend to shoot steel case versus the ARs, which I've seen do not. Now, that has been a problem. That's with steel magazines. When you go to the polymer magazines, like the Tapcos, they tend not to shoot steel ammo in the Tapco magazines. They tend not to be all the way, 100% there. Where the Mini 14 is losing to the AR-15 is in mags. The way a Mini 14 fires, the gun actually has to be put in and the magazine rocked backwards. That's a pain. And plus it takes a little bit of getting used to getting them out and getting them all the way back out of the gun. Where an AR mag is put in straight, slammed in, and actually can be slammed in just like a Glock magazine. Do I think that that is a problem? Yes, it's a pain. And also you'll see that locking them in sometimes doesn't always go perfect. So that is an issue. Also, shooting off the magazine. Now, I've been able to shoot off the magazine on most of my guns. It's something that the military does not recommend for their M14s, and I recommend if you have a choice, don't. But if you're out at a couple 100 yards away and you need to shoot and you don't have any other way to do it, shooting off the magazine is definitely an option. Now, keep that in mind. You may have a jam because of that. With the ARs, they tend not to have that problem, and they tend to be able to shoot off the magazine. That's where I see the big advantage. Now, comparingly to one big advantage that AKs, Mini 14s, and those type rifles have over an AR is in this stock right here. The foldable Mini 14 stock is a massive advantage. If I can get the dang thing, this thing hasn't, we don't use these guys. Folding it over and still being able to fire in the foldable position, in a paratrooper style type position. So I can fold it over, shoot the gun, versus even the ones that are folded over in the AR style, they cannot be folded over and fired in most situations unless you get the version that is actually designed to fire up front. And then again, that's great. Over 90% of the ARs out there, they don't have that ability. So if you live outside of California, you have the ability to have a foldable, collapsible stock that can be fired in the foldable position. So one big hit for minis and AKs. AKs also have that same feature where the piston system's all up front. There's nothing going into the back of the stock, so they can be fired that way. The guns themselves are very heavy duty. Out of thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds that I've shot through minis, I have only had one major, what I call terminal malfunction. And what I mean by that is a malfunction that actually was not able to be fixed on the field. I was not able to fix it while I was shooting. I had to order a part for it, let's say, or an actual critical part that was missing. And that was an extractor. I was shooting steel-cased ammo, and as most people know that shoot steel-cased ammo, occasionally you will break an extractor. Now, we were doing mag dumps at that time, and if you don't know what a mag dump is, type it into YouTube and watch. It's basically shooting rapid fire as fast as we could shoot, cheap steel case woof ammunition. And I snapped an extractor. I called up Ruger, they sent one out, I had a new extractor within a week. Now I keep extractors. I've also had friends that have told me that they've broke firing pins, so I keep firing pins for my guns. So keep that in mind. Every gun breaks, and I don't ever want to say that they do not. But I really do love Mini 14s. I think they're a great alternative to AKs if you're not an AK fan, especially if you're an M10A fan. If you are an M14 fan, this gun is the parable version and much cheaper to shoot than a 308. Huge important to think about. You know, if you are an AR fan, shoot ARs. That's fine. If you're an AK fan, they make all different kinds of AKs right now. Shoot AKs. They're all great guns. My problem is when they say that Mini 14s are inaccurate pieces of junk that are not worthy of being shot. I have not found that to be the actual fact of that, and I tend to see them that they are very reliable out of the box. Do I believe they're more reliable out of the box than ARs? Yes, because most ARs are put together by the place you buy them. If you buy a Ruger, if you buy the Ruger AR versions that are piston driven, I think they're the SR 556 versions and their 308 version, both those guns are very reliable out of the box. Do they kick slightly more than the standard ARs? Yes, because they've got more apparatus happening up front in the piston-driven systems. But they tend not to blow gas tubes. They tend not to clog with gas tubes because they're pistons. They tend to shoot almost all different kinds of ammunition and all different types of barrels. So you're not dealing with a full-length gas system, a mid-length, or a carbine length. All that doesn't matter. They tend to shoot just fine. But you do have to do with anything. Learn your guns. Learn to shoot them. Go shoot them. See if you can make them malfunction. When they malfunction, learn how to take care of that malfunction out in the field. It doesn't do any good to have a gun that you don't know how to shoot. And if you're an AR guy, shoot ARs. But if you're a Mini 14 guy, most people love them. And their reason is because they work really well. And if I was going to take a gun and throw it in the back of my truck, not that I could do that in California, but if I was in Wyoming and I had a gun I was going to throw in the back of my truck to take care of coyotes and other items like that, it would be a Mini 14 or a Mini 30. Because I know they fire out of the box and I know I don't have to worry about them. If I went out and shot that gun 1,000 rounds that afternoon and forgot to clean it for the next 6 months, okay. Now, even the blued versions internally come with stainless steel trigger groups. They also come with a stainless steel piston. That is the only problem I've ever had with the older minis, is that I've had the problem where the actual piston in here, in the older minis, was made out of blued steel. If you replace that, like this particular one, we've replaced that with a stainless steel version, because what was happening was what people would do is they'd fire it 1,000 rounds, they'd leave the bolt closed, they'd come back to it 6 months later, and the bolt was actually jammed. It actually had rusted from moisture from being left in the back of their truck, and they had that problem. What we did is solve that by replacing that with a stainless steel piston system. Gun now rocks. Doesn't have any problems. Doesn't matter how long you leave it in the garage or whatever it is, they tend to shoot just fine now. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave comments on the bottom. Feel free to give us ideas of what you want next. This particular video was from a request from a viewer. Said they wanted to see more mini videos. And there will be more coming out. We're going to talk about each individual part and thing that we add to our guns here pretty quick. So we want you to be able to see this particular item. The next one we're going to be doing is on the True Shot Technologies barrel stabilizer, which I believe, like I said, should be on every mini. It is a necessary part as far as I'm concerned if you're a mini guy. If you're a mini guy and you want to improve the accuracy, but more importantly, want to take care of the problem with these barrels heating up to a point of where they're inaccurate, put a barrel stabilizer on them. It solves the problem. And for 59 bucks, I mean, it's great, and it doesn't add much weight. 4 to 6 ounces on some of the heavier versions out there. I tend to look at the aluminum ones, and we will be talking directly about the True Shot Technologies version. So as always, have a great day, and please leave comments and like and share.